Good morning, Lordy sakes alive, people. Ugh, it's been a morning too. Hello and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and Disembodied Hands, Quindy. There may be a Justin, there may be a John, somewhere in the ether, slowly being reeled back to their bodies after Reapercon. However, we do not have a status update. How are y'all? Sorry for the late start today. It was just like, first day that David was going back to work, didn't have, trying to figure out a routine with the pupster. Still a little bit down on my own health, but better. Yeah, Kernico, as you know, with big time medical crap, as we have, it's not always so easy to battle back once you get kind of in a slump. So, yeah, my slump. I'm crawling out of my slump. How about that? Crawling out. Every day's a little better. So, yes, indeedy. Yeah, Bombshell, the cat with his head on its head. I have that one. It's cute. It's cute. I should paint it up. We should do that one for Halloween on my stream. Maybe I'll do that. I'm feeling like that could be good for October for my personal stream. Because it's a pretty simple mini. We could do a black cat with a white tuxedo. Kodiak, thank you. 6 months. It's a half a sub-anniversary. Ooh. It's a tiny little sub-anniversary. Multiply it by 2 and you get a song. It's the big time medical crap. It's just what it is. It's like chronic disease. Hello, welcome. It is what it is. I'd rather talk about it than hide it because too many people hide it. And it's like so many people in this world are fighting, invisible health issues, trying to live more or less normal lives. And sometimes it's a fight. Sometimes it's a fight, as many of you know, I'm sure, in the audience. But yeah. Yeah, it was cooler. It's finally cooled off here in California, in the Bay Area, South Bay anyway. We had kind of a mostly overcast day yesterday, and I think it's in the upper 70s today. It should be beautiful. All my windows are open. Pupster is not melting anymore. Yeah. I don't think we're going to need AC. We'll need AC maybe tonight to cool off. We're debating. Like, we don't know if there's going to be another heat wave. It's still going to be, like, upper 70s. So we're like, yeah. Good day. Anyway, so Pupster's in her crate in the main room. And going to probably start complaining at some point when she realizes I'm not there with her. But we're just going to go forward because this is the routine now. We're doing the routine. And unfortunately, until she gets a little older and is a little more trustworthy and a little less dingo, actually the pen that I got for her for the room here is not going to work. We've actually we've redistributed it to our hobby room where it makes a much better play pen for her in the evenings with us. Because the top is open, she can get at the cords for my laptop. She's just short of it, like a couple inches taller, and she can get at the cords. And she thinks they're fascinating because, everything is fascinating. When you're a puppy, everything is a toy. So yeah, when she gets a little older, then we'll redouble our efforts at trying to make a dog cam work. Oh no, I forgot my palette. Let me grab it. That was predictable. I think I want to do this lady's leather today, which is good because I barely remember like what color I was using with the blue grays. We were using carbon scoring, weren't we? It looks like it. Hello, green users. Yes, dogs do get it right. Dogs get to trustworthy stage, whereas cats don't really. Right, you are correct. Yeah, I think I used carbon scoring blue for her. I don't remember if I've made a note of what I used. Usually I would. Let's see, there is a little card down here. Nope, that's an older note. Older note with a different model. So we can kill that. If I need to get something, I'll figure it out. I can mix blue grays in my sleep, so we'll figure it out. It looks like carbon scoring, though. I could always go back and watch the original video and see what I used. Okay, but I'm pretty much sure carbon scoring and maybe blue liner. I don't know. Yeah. meh. We'll work on leather anyway. So this is our Ghostwalkers mini from Reapercon. Exactly, Quindy, right? Exactly. Yes. So, yes, the Popster will actually get to the point where I can put her in here on a pillow in a little pen and she will be okay. But at this point, it really is, everything is a toy. If you change to new pants, your new pants are obviously a toy. If you wear a flannel over the top of your shirt, that flannel is a toy. We're at that point. Papaya green. Yeah, well, that works. Yeah, make minis fly, stand in the pallet, and steal minis and eat cork. Yeah, chaos, pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I mean, my cat Panther, he just never got, from a baby, I kind of trained him not to be on countertops, and it kind of worked. I don't know why it worked with him, but he just decided that countertops were not for him. I had a pretty trustworthy cat as far as like anything on my desk or, raised surfaces, which was nice. My previous cat was not so trustworthy. All right, we're going to work on leather guys today, and I think I was going to use nut brown and saddle brown because she's a very muted color scheme. So I want to use muted colors. So by muted, I mean not bright, and these are definitely a little bit more washed out. So we're going to do nut brown, we're going to highlight with saddle brown, and then from there I will probably add in a cream, like creamy ivory or Osirian sand, to bring up the saddle brown a bit. And we should be able to do some weathering and some detailing on it that way. So we'll start with our nut brown though. I want to start dark. Nut brown and saddle brown work together very well this way. Trying to think if there's a color that I would really say would be a good highlight for your saddle. If anything, it could be a skin tone. Yeah, you could actually make these into a skin tone weirdly. But I bet a more tan skin tone might work. And that makes sense for leather, right? That's too warm. If you want it to be much warmer, actually this is pretty versatile. So I think this is maybe a bit too warm for it, but if you added a little white to it. When you're working with washed out colors, remember to continue to work with washed out colors. So don't add a really bright highlight onto it necessarily. That's nice, Valandar. Swagbach restock 6 p.m. Central tonight. Excellent. So yeah, you could do this with you could use this almost as a skin tone with tan skin. With the saddle being your intermediate. I would probably mix saddle and tan skin and add some off-white rather than using tan skin itself, because this is a lot more red. Yeah, Panther would try to bite round door handles. He once was in the bathroom. I'd set up a tub and I'd given one of the dogs a bath, and he was super curious about it. So he got back there, which normally he wouldn't be in the back of the house, because just he liked to stay in the front of the house where there was a baby gate that the dogs couldn't get to him. He liked to be more of an on his own cat. And I hear this slam, like a door slamming, and I'm like, what the heck was that? So after I deal with the dog, with drying off the dog, I go in, and the cat had essentially gotten up on the tub rim, slipped, fallen into the water, levitated as far as I can tell straight up in the air, shot for the door, missed the door, hit the door, slammed the door shut, and had then spent the ensuing couple of minutes trying to turn the doorknob with his teeth to get out. That's the best I can reconstruct from the physical evidence at the scene. I'm imagining the levitation, but I'm pretty sure it happened. Yeah. Well, it's like they get themselves into it. Cats, they do. They would prefer that we did not, remind them of that, but it was pretty comedic. It was pretty comedic. Panther, that was Panther, who is Mama San's son, the old Reaper shop cat, for those of you who remember Mama. half Siamese and 14 pounds, solid black green eyes, and very, very, he was a very needy cat. He was a very human-centric cat, very dog-like when he was younger. He was very much like I was his person and that was it. David is totally sold on Kiki, by the way, guys. Like, I won't call him a dog person, but there's a possibility here. There's a distinct possibility. He's been overwhelmed by her cuteness. I have heard him like just standing there or like crouching there going, "You are so cute." Yeah. Yeah. So I think he understands now. This is a win for somebody who never liked dogs or was into dogs at all. The Keekster has won him over. Let's see here. Let's just we're using smaller brushes on this one because she has a lot of detailing. And of course, I forgot my goddamn glasses. Dang it. So, Kiki, guys, successfully indoctrinated him. He's getting there. He's getting there. I did this about a 3-to-1, but because nut brown is actually pretty see-through, I think I maybe want to go like another drop or two. I think I want to go 4-to-1 on this for the base coat. Traditional 4-to-1. I forgot that it has a good transparency to it. But it's good at 4-to-1. Yes, little Keekster. She's a floof. Still a floof. Gonna be getting in her adult coat soon. Usually starts around between 12 and 16 weeks. Let's see here. I have a Keekster photo, I believe. I also have a picture of, I have a couple of Keeksters. So Keekster, like more in the shade, but let's see here. I think I've got a better Keekster than that, a lighter Keekster. There we go, today. Today, this is the Keekster. There's Keela. So this ear, you can see it's kind of creeping up on top of her head. It's definitely, when she doesn't have them, she's always got them canted back, but when it's not back, it's actually half stuck up. It's half of the ear. So we have one ear half up at this point. But yeah, so you can see she's probably going to have some pretty markings. She's got lighter spots here, and a bow tie chest, bow tie shaped spot there, and she's going to have probably that white bib around her throat. Her mama, who is Zammy, this is Zammy as a puppy, and at 12 weeks, Zammy had one ear up. So they just pop up like out of nowhere. Like they can flop until then, and then they just go. But you can see how much lighter in color Zammy is than her daughter. So with Kiki, we definitely have some dark coloration, and you can see it here on the front of the legs. You can see these dark patches. They may fade out, or they may get darker with the adult coat. We'll see. Yeah, she's got very expressive. She's very expressive. She says, "Look at me. Look at these eyes. You want to give me treats." Yes. So, and she's going to have dark eyes as an adult. But this is her, okay, let's see here. So this is Kiki jumping off of her bed and trying to jump onto the chair, which is way too tall for her. This is the usual. This is the well-behaved Kiki. This is the usual Kiki. Wow! Woomph. That's Kiki. Totally Kiki. That is what the dog usually is like. So on Saturday, we had our first puppy preschool. Remember that Kiki has never met strange dogs, and she has never experienced dogs that are not her breed. She's met other adult dogs in Bridget's household, but they are all Shilohs. And so this was like Kiki weirded out for a good half hour out of the hour. So brought her in, and she was like hiding under the chair, totally like freaking out, like at all this weird stuff. Like first I brought her to a totally new place. She really was into the new people, She loves people, but the other dogs were weird. There were no other shepherds. We had a big, kind of the way golden retrievers are supposed to be, actually, big, calm golden puppy. He was nice. Charlie, I think, was his name, which was a good name for him. And then we had an Irish setter golden mix who was much more spunky and high energy, and Kiki got to like her. And then there was a corgi, of course. There must be a corgi. And then a spaniel mix, and yeah, I don't remember beyond that. Oh, a doodle that was actually a little bit bigger than Keeks. Weirdly, Kiki liked the dogs that were slightly smaller than her more than the dogs that were bigger than her. The golden and the doodle were older and bigger than her. And the corgi and the Irish setter golden mix were a little bit smaller than her. She liked them better, interestingly enough. But yeah, she spent the first half of class, like, which was, the playtime. She spent the first half just being completely terrified of the other dogs. Like, she would hide under the chair, and then she would kind of meet them from there. She was, yeah. Well, the golden gives them more brain cells. This is a pretty nice mix, just based on my one. I have a sample size of one, but this dog was a really nice dog. Like, she had a nice temperament. She had good energy. She was playful. She seemed to have a brain cell more than the usual Irish setter. So yeah, so hopefully the golden genes mitigate a bit of that Irish setter, one-mindedness, single-mindedness, that's what I call them, single-minded dogs. And a lot of hunting dogs like that. And there was a doodle. Doodle is what you call a poodle plus X. I'm pretty sure this one was a golden doodle, just based on the size, probably standard poodle and golden. So if you've got a 50-50 mix, like you'll see this when people are trying to sell, because poodle mixed puppies are pretty popular because if you're lucky, you get that hypoallergenic coat gene. You don't always, though. Not all of the puppies will get that with doodles. But doodle they tend to call them like golden doodle, labradoodle, shih tzu doodle. I don't know what else there is. There's all sorts of doodles out there. You can find a doodle of almost anything. You can even find shepherdoodles, which are shepherds and poodles. When the other Shiloh Shepherd people who are not part of our organization want to belittle us for our choices of an outcross, they say that we're just making doodles, by the way. That shows you the level of their intelligence and enlightenment. But at any point, so yeah. So it, I believe, was a golden doodle. It looked like a golden doodle. It had that color and the size. Very, yeah, it's a doodle is just, yeah, it's a poodle mixed term, but there are specifics. Like I said, golden doodle. People will tell you if their dog is a golden doodle or a labradoodle. I believe that the labradoodle was the first one made, and they were originally created by a guy who wanted to make guide dogs that were hypoallergenic. It was a really good, idea, but then the designer dog community got a hold of it, and then the guy, like, later just retired from, like, breeding and really, like, said he regretted what he'd done, which is sad. Yeah, he really regrets it. Yep, thanks, Kurtiko. Yep. Yeah, I wasn't even looking at the screen when I realized that you had said the same thing. So we're going to do all of our leather in this color, and it's looking really good with this model. The nice thing about this is that all the big patches of leather are up here by her face, so they're going to help pull the eye up, but we're starting darker, so they're not, like, going to be really distracting. Her face is still, like, the palest thing up here, and these big bone bird heads on her shoulder, which I will paint as bone, are also going to be light, and they're going to draw the eye up to her face, so we want all of that. My brother has one. My brother and sister-in-law have, they got a miniature poodle mixed with golden retriever for their family. Rocky's a good dog. I mean, they can be well-bred or they can be crappy-bred, just like any other breed, right? And they can be well-raised or crappy-raised, just like any other breed. So I hate to generalize, because I've met, even of the breeds that I'm not a fan, I have met, like, sweet and lovely representatives of those breeds, so there's always an exception. I'm just sad that it's, like, that a bunch of money-hungry people, like, capitalized on the idea and, ran with it, but, it is what it is. All right, so we're going to get all these little leather straps. We're going to paint them all the same. I'm going to get a lot closer. I am loading my brush up about, you can see how much paint, about a third. and I'm unloading it, you know, like 6 dabs maybe. And that gives me control. Even if I have to, even though I don't have as much paint on my brush now, and I maybe have to put on another coat, and I do have to get a little bit more. And I have to keep reapplying paint to my brush because I have so little. When I reapply, by the way, I'm only dipping the very tip in so that a couple of dabs will unload it to the point. St. Bernardo Doodle, that's funny. Yeah, that would be a pretty good mix, actually. Big and floofy. That's really funny. But yeah, people these days, yeah, you can find a doodle of pretty much anything. I hear the Shepadoodles are actually pretty good. And I mean, Kiki is 75% Shiloh, so she's a generation removed from the 50-50 outcross. But, I mean, I like a lot of her traits. David doesn't feel she's higher energy, by the way. I felt she was a higher energy puppy, but I don't know what he's encountered in the course of his life, but he feels that Kiki's not higher energy. He thinks she's actually pretty average. Collie-doodle. Yeah, I mean, I think any of the herding breeds in the poodle would... You get that nice intelligence, and the poodles are a hunting dog that's been turned more into a companion dog and are very eager to please. Like, they're very biddable. They generally would like to, you know, they're intelligent and they're easily trained. And so when you cross that with a herding dog that has the same traits, like a collie or a shepherd, you kind of double down on that. That's one of the reasons I was interested in this outcross, is that that's what I love about our dogs, is that they are so easy to train. I started Leave It training with Keeks this morning. It's time to start the Leave It training. She's 11 weeks old today. And I've got our basic obedience. Yeah, you don't like the poofy curly fur. Yeah, I'm not a fan either. A great doodle. I don't know if anybody's done a great doodle. Would it be a marginally okay doodle if it didn't turn out so well? Oh dear. There's a lot of smaller breeds that have been doodled just to make small companionable dogs. And again, it's like people are, if they do it, they can sell those puppies. And unfortunately, many disreputable breeders will sell all the puppies in the litter as hypoallergenic. But like I said, that's a 50-50 gene, so you either get it or you don't. And that was the reason why the doodle originator, although it was a great idea once he figured that out, that he couldn't consistently get that gene, because I believe it's a dominant. So even if you have both parents possessing it, you still get a selection of puppies without it. But it was just an unpredictable heritability thing. All right, so another belt up here, so we got to get that. I want to get all of her leather to be the same color because there aren't a lot of other options. Because when you're working with a muted color scheme, guys, you can really kind of paint yourself into a corner. It's really easy because working with muted tones and trying to find ones that go well together is challenging enough. So if you try to switch it up and do a lot of different colors of leather along the top of that, then you're really kind of like making it really hard for yourself. I mean, I could use a more yellowy leather, but then it would kind of clash with her hair. I could use a really dark leather, and I'm actually not liking these leggings, so I may change their color. I may actually change them to bone color, just like her shoulder, because I don't like the dark on the leggings on her. I'll take the dark color down to the shoes then. So I could go with a very dark color, and I can think about that. I want these pouches though to be my medium color because it stands out a little better. Think logically, Agent Marvel. In order to have the vials stay on your belt, they would have to have something holding them. At least with the school of Izzy, with Talon and the new artist, part of part of Izzy's watchword always was functionality. So everything makes sense on the costuming, and everything is held up by something. You don't have any floating bags that are just kind of sitting there on the side of the figure. It's always attached by something. So when you see a detail, say, hey, how is this actually attached to the character? I think I'm going to take this crossbody strap that is how these are attached though, and I'm going to make that darker. And I think maybe the same with this little strap on the other side. And then I'm going to make this middle belt dark, I think. So I'll kind of alternating, kind of going with the dark belts on the interior and the stuff that's kind of on the exterior being the that leather. She's just a nice little figure, Big Apple. She's got some nice details on her. The lantern is a nice touch, and we may do a small glow effect on that. I'm not sure yet. She's in such muted colors that I could get away with painting her kind of as in the Twilight figure, so I could actually, because she doesn't have anything that's like really, everything is a little muted, and that could be because it's evening time, right? And if it's evening time, then we could get away with the glow effect. So as long as I don't paint any part of the figure to be obviously in daylight. I've also kept all my highlights pretty soft at this point, and that's another indicator that it's like evening or twilight time. So, yeah, and armor plates need straps and all that kind of thing. So, oh, you grew up with a Sheltie. Me too, Valendar. Me too. Alrighty, so I am going to get out, and almost always, if I'm going to do a dark leather, it's going to be black and brown or walnut or both. I'm going to start with walnut and bring it up usually with russet brown. This time I'm going to have to change that up a little bit. I may bring it up with the nut brown and kind of put it a step behind. So essentially use the same colors except start a step lower. And we'll see how that works. It should result, remember that when you base coat something in near black, it tends to make it show up as dark, even if you highlight it with similar colors to a similar, you know, like if I highlight it with the same colors I'm using on the rest of the leather, but I just don't go up quite as high, it will look darker. So it's a way to not clash, because you're using the same colors, you're just kind of choosing a lower, darker triad to paint some of the belts with. So we'll see how I can do with that. Because I don't really want to go with my black and brown, you know, with the natural progression of colors in that triad. And the reason I don't is that those get up to pretty saturated, intense levels, and I want everything to stay muted. Hey there, crows. So let's get this walnut. Of course, walnut I can go just a 2-to-1, which lets me not reload my brush quite as often, since the thin paint will stretch farther. There is a crow out there who is being very annoying. Yes, crow. That crow is like, I'm going to talk over your stream. That's what I'm going to do. It's my job this morning. And then I've got to get down in here to get the back of this belt. Nice thing about doing this strap in dark color is that I really don't have to highlight it back here. I just need to make sure I get it all into the back there. So yeah, Keekster ended up enjoying her first puppy preschool class, but it completely blew her mind, guys. She slept for almost the whole day afterwards. Not because she had expended a lot of physical energy, but because her brain got blown and she had to like somehow integrate that into her worldview. So we have another session tomorrow. I'm going to do my best to actually be on time tomorrow, or leaving a little bit early. Because I'm going to need to get out of here like pretty fast after the stream, maybe, and probably end right at 11, because I have to be over there by noon, and it takes almost a half an hour if there's traffic. So, oh, good, Agent Marvel, excellent. So there was some paint up in the ferrule that had dried. You got some gunk out of it when you applied the restorer. It's always gratifying to me to see that gunk come out of my brush, because I know then the cleaner is working. It's like when you have to scrub a very dirty thing and you see all that gunk come up, and then you're like, aha, I feel great about this. So since I've got my walnut, I'm also using it to line a few things here. So we've got that dark strap. Lots of gunk. Good. So I'm going to do just a little bit of lining. There's some beautiful small details on this model. The potion vials are very nice. And then we've got this nice ring belt here with a tiny little pouch hanging off of it. Little dagger here on her hip. So I'm going to do just a little bit of lining because I can. And it's the way I tend to roll, just to make it look nice and crisp, so I can see all my details. It will help me as I progress on the model. Moonglooms. Red sable is just the lower grade of sable. Kolinsky sable is red sable. Kolinsky sable is the 2 highest grades of red sable. So a red sable brush that just says red sable is the same thing, but it's not the highest grade. So, okay, so this is where we talk about a Russian weasel butt fur. So the red sable used in brushes, also the Kolinsky sable, is they're pretty much like the same kind of species. It's all the same. Kolinsky is the word they put on the 2 highest grades. The 2 highest grades of red sable are essentially only taken from the tail hairs, which are the, have the nicest tip and springiest points, and they're long, right? So tail hairs of the male Kolinsky weasel in winter. I am not making this stuff up. To get really, really good brush hair that is long enough for brushes and has the maximum spring and just the fullest hair, it's got to be winter, because then the animal's got a much fuller coat, a much thicker coat, right? And it's the males that have the higher quality hairs. So male sable, tail hair in winter. This is why it's Russian weasel butt fur, specifically butt, Anyway. But yeah, so red sable comes in either, I forget whether it's 10 or 15 grades. But yeah, this is just the highest 2 grades. The grade 2 and the grade 1 are deemed Kolinsky, are given the name of the weasel. Yep, that is specific. But anybody who's owned a long-haired dog will tell you that, in the winter the coat gets really thick and luxurious, right? Because it's that cold weather thing. Well, that's what happens with animals in the wild. And so if you're going to get a really high-quality hair that's thick and resilient and springy and, of good length, then you're going to take it in the winter. So yeah, so it's the same hairs. It's going to be, maybe you will notice not as much spring. You will notice, or it could be, oh no, this would be funny. This would be super funny. Yeah, I was about to say, so to get around the Fish and Wildlife Service, it would be super, super funny if everybody just rebranded their Kolinskys as red sable. Wouldn't that be funny? Right, it does, Big Apple, but it's really true. All right, so let's get this little belt back here, which is way up against, it's behind everything. It really doesn't need a lot of fanfare. It just needs to be painted. Now you know why I use reading glasses, so I can see all these little details. Definitely use magnification if, like me, your eyeball warranty ran out when you hit 40. Or even if you're younger and you just, have a lot of eye strain because you stare at computers a lot. Marika always used, she's the one I got the reading glass idea from. And she was wearing them when she was much younger, just to spare her eyes, because she felt like she got a lot of eye strain. I avoided that when I was younger. I found that if I used a lot of light at my painting station, that I would not get eye strain for miniature painting. So for me, I didn't use magnification, but I used light. But of course at conventions, that's not possible. Let's see, do I want that little lacrosse thing to be leather? Yeah, I think I do. I think I want it to be lighter leather there. I'm trying to suggest that our brushes are not magical items. Yeah, that's very interesting together. I really do feel like maybe that's the case because, you know, artists want brushes. Like, they are really peeved at, and it's not just us, you know, these watercolor painters and oil painters use these Kolinsky's. And it's like the best brush for many, many canvas uses as well. So, wildlife painters in particular use these because of the fine point, because they're doing all the fur work, right, and the whiskers and all those fine details to make an animal look lifelike. They tend to use Kolinsky's. So, and wildlife art is a big business, like one of the more popular branches of the fine arts as far as if you want to sell a lot of paintings. If you're good. Okay, so we've got that belt strap goes right there. That's the belt strap that is holding on, that's attached to these pouches, but I'm making it a contrasting color because I just want a little bit of variance here. Yeah, I always did say that if you switch to Kolinsky, you'll level up. You level up pretty much, or free level at least, because you're no longer fighting your brush. It's kind of like when you paint a mini like this that's really well sculpted and you know, doesn't have a lot of mold issues, and it's just very clean. Oh, I needed to paint that dark. Nope. This also gives you a level up. Like, people don't understand sometimes. So we pick models that we like, but then we realize that they kind of have tragic flaws. Like, maybe parts are kind of muddy or not sculpted as well, and then it's hard, right? That makes it even harder. I want to get this focal point. 1 second, guys. Let me get my focal point set here. I feel like I'm painting just a little bit out of it. There we go. That's better. But yeah, so, I mean, this is something I tell people who want to paint for competition, but it's also important for people who are trying to, like, level up their painting. Like, painting older miniatures, although a lot of people like to paint, like, kind of like the classic old Grenadier or Partha or whatever. And they can be fun, but they also can have a lot of flaws. And even, like, let's give it, there's a sculptor, Joaquin Palacios. David loves his work, but he's very sketchy in his sculpting style. So there'll be parts that'll be super clean, and then there'll be parts that are just kind of blocked in because that's his artistry, right? But if you're a painter who's trying to level up, trying to paint one of his sculpts, actually it can be very hard for you in that case because it's not crisp and clean, and there are some parts that are very, very sketched in, and that means you have to do more work, you the painter. So painting artists that have a really tight, clean style, and a lot of digital art does these days, so that's nice for you. Yeah, painting artists that have a really nice, tight, clean style, at least for practice, it'll help you. You don't have to, it makes it not as difficult, essentially. Then when you, like, kind of feel a little more confident, then you can tackle that model that maybe has some faults, but that you just love its character. But if you try to tackle that model before you have that confidence, it's just going to, like everything's going to pile up. Your own, like, you wish that you were a better painter, and then the model is kind of fighting you, and you end up, like, just kind of frustrated, and, like, you didn't get what you wanted out of that model, even though you loved it. So, yeah, like, going with something with really crisp details, it's the same thing, like, when you're just starting out, don't pick a model like this. All this tiny detail. It's going to essentially set you up to fail because you don't have the brush control yet to hit all these tiny details. So you have to, at that point, like, use washes. If you're trying to get better, then working with something a little simpler and training your brush control enables you to be able to do, like, the lighting and the detail painting to get these little vials and everything, which can otherwise be very difficult for you. So I'm trying to figure out, man, this belt is, like, all over the place here. So many belts. But yeah, so kind of think about when you're starting out, especially. I usually tell people if you want to paint character models starting out, that's fine, but look for a very simple one. Look for simpler ones without all this glot of detail around the middle. Even though this makes her look cool, go for something a little easier to start with, and then work up to the models that have insane amounts of details on them. An exception would be something like the pack turtle from a couple of Kickstarters ago. Although it has a lot of detail, all of its boxes and bags are sculpted pretty big. So if it's bigger, then you can go for it. But just keep in mind. And of course you can ignore me and decide to do it anyway. That's fine too. I just like to advise because I'm like, if I can save you guys an ounce of frustration and it'll reduce the chance that you just give up and quit, right? I want you to stay in the hobby and enjoy it because it's a wonderful hobby. Speaking of which, sales, and if you're looking to get into busts, Mr. Lee's Miniatures is going out of business. They're having a sale right now. They've still got a fair number of really good looking busts on sale. Just to give you a side note there, if you are in the market for a bust. They've got sales on other stuff too, I just didn't look at anything else. I feel like a lot of these miniatures conglomerators, like people who are selling like other people's stuff, are kind of going out lately, and instead the manufacturers are doing their own stuff or maybe seeing a bit more success. Like Reaper and a lot of the little companies like Ignis, companies that are selling their own stuff. All right, there we go. Let's get the lining under the bag here. We've almost got everything that is leather blocked in, except for that little pouch. I need to figure out what color that little pouch is going to be. I may save it for an accent color. When you've got stuff like that, although probably not because the potion vials are right here. I've also got the scabbard here of the daggers. So I've got a couple of different places that I can introduce an accent color that are all in this area already. So I probably do want the bag to be leather. If I give anything an accent color, I could do the little cord. I think I'm going to do the little cord in dark. Kind of blocking in around the top of that little bag, just essentially shading it. Shading all around it. And I think I want to change these leggings now. I think I'm going to actually block in my bone, guys. Then we're going to make a decision about what color the bracers are, if I'm going to take them dark or light. I'm not sure, but I need to get these leggings changed. So I've got a couple of bone colors in my kit. Hey there, how's it going, Real Brush Guy? Yeah, Mr. Lee's Minis is a UK shop that carries a bunch of, it actually carries a lot of like Roman and a bunch of the other like painter sculptors out there from Europe, like carries their lines. So it's kind of sad that it's going out. Because a lot of those are little boutique lines that, I don't know where else you get them. But yeah. So let's see here. Oh, I need a bone color. What have I got? What have I got? I don't think I've got any of my dark bone colors, but I've got lighter bone colors. What have I got? Skeleton bone. So polished bone, skeleton bone. Let's back out and show what we got. I only keep a couple of, I usually use bone colors as highlighters rather than shadows. Let me see what I've got back here. Oh, it's a green. I don't want that one. So those two are what I've got. And the skeleton bone is more yellowy. It almost has a greenish tinge to it. The polished bone is more of a kind of taupe color. So let me, oh, and I think I've got another bone. Yeah, I do, but this is definitely a highlight color. It's the splintered bone, which I think is canceled now. So that's a little bit warmer. You can see this is more grayish. That's from our grade bone triad. That includes aged bone. And then we've got the splintered bone here, which was from the it was originally a Kickstarter, I think. It was, yeah, I think that most of these are canceled now, which is a shame because the nice thing about these colors was that they were halfway between the grayed out bone and the really yellow bone. Let me see what else I got back here. Do I have also have creamy ivory, One thing we could use as a base for bone that I actually would be pretty good on. See, knot bone is the very dark bone. So these guys, we've got very warm bone possibility here. We could also use desert sand for a more brownish bone. So if I took those guys, for example, desert sand and polished bone, I could do that, although that's much warmer than that. Probably better to do that. And I could use bleached linen in place of that. Now if I wanted skeleton bone, probably there I'm going to have to use something like mixing it with walnut or another brown. Yeah, knot bone is very warm though. Remember, the warmer you get, like this is getting pretty saturated, and she's a very muted model. And when you are choosing muted colors, you've got to stick to those muted colors. Right away, as I'm looking at this, it looks way too intense for her. Like it's more intense color than I painted her hair, and I don't want that. Almost always when you're working with muted colors, you work it with grayed out colors. And desert sand as such is a good choice for this. It's still warmer, but it's also got I would know because I know the mix of it. It's essentially a similar color to mixing like leather brown with cloudy gray and then popping some white in there. So yeah, when you work with muted, we don't do a lot of muted colors. We do a lot of bright colors on this stream, but I used to just love and prefer painting with muted colors, and you always need to choose a bit of a grayish color. There's an exception to this, and that is accent colors. So if you're painting a muted model, but you have a couple of small spots like gemstones or potion vials or whatever, and you want to throw an accent color in there, you can use a bright color for that. But you got to keep it real small. And that in that way, you can introduce a bright saturated color to a muted color scheme. But that's really the only way you can do it and not have the whole thing fight with you. So for us, if we really wanted to, and if you really want that to work, you should probably make sure that it's a complementary color of one of the colors used on the model. So in this case, with her, I used blue. My brown is a bit reddish purplish. And she's got yellow hair. So, I mean, but the yellow is so far very... We're probably going to introduce something similar over here, though, when we do this gold, unless I keep everything on her silver, which I'm still debating. But I could maybe go with a orangey color, orangey yellow. I could maybe get away with a purpley color, a violet color for the ghost lantern. I don't know, I'm still thinking about it, if we do a glow on this. But you gotta be careful when you're doing more bright colors. So let's put on the desert sand. And I can work it up with the skeleton bone, which is pretty muted out. Oh, another good color for this would be cairnstone. Even though it's a stone color, you can see it is quite close to skeleton bone. It's not as green, which is an advantage. And so taking your desert sand and highlighting with cairnstone, or starting with something else and highlighting with cairnstone, is this is a good bone color. Not just for stones anymore. But with bone, you do like to start I like to start a little darker, because I feel like I can't even tell what that spells. Too much brain cells. Concentrating on painting. So let's get some of this desert sand out. We're going to use it as a bone color. Stone colors and bone colors often do cross over. You can, if you're looking at kind of the grayish stone colors, they can often, almost always be used for bone. So don't get your head stuck. Yes, hello Roger, hello Major. Don't get your head stuck in just because it doesn't say bone, it can't be used for bone space. That's not true. The desert stone and desert sand colors are actually great starts for bone. So I'm going to thin this down a bit. Always thin it down. This is a 4:1 right now. I'm probably going to need a shadow color here, and I tend to like to go a bit gray with my bone, and especially on a muted color like this. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my walnut, transfer it over, and grab some of my bone color. Did I actually just put that back? Don't put it away. I need it. And I'm going to use this to mix a color. Walnut is a lot of black to it and then some brown. But it makes a really good shadow, a good bone shadow color like this. So that's quite a bit darker. But I want that. I want that to be able to put shadows on the bone. Yeah, Chris, that's good. That's really good actually for that lifespan, especially sitting and not being used. Usually I tell people to shake their paint every couple of years to keep it good. But yeah, you got lucky. Good. I'm glad it still works. Yeah, I mean, I had samples from the original batches that were over 15 years old and still working, so that's great. Now, some of the formulations did change, I think, since 2008. I don't remember how far we were in at that point. I don't think we had the high density pigments at that point. So yeah, there's some changes that were definitely made, and if you get a new bottle of any of those colors, you may notice a difference. Oh, good. Glad, Major. Yeah, and you might have, but the reason paint goes bad when you just let it sit is that eventually the resins settle out from the water binder, and once that happens, we call it latexing. Essentially, those resins start to settle into just a plug, a solid plug at the bottom. And when that process is completed, you cannot get them back in solution. But if you catch it before that process is complete, you can sometimes save them. So yeah. So as you can see, this is a very light color. We're not really even seeing the fact that it's really a beige color. We're not even seeing that. It looks white. So I am going to do a bit of wet blending here. Yeah, if you order new versions of some of those colors, you may notice that the consistency is different. Some of the colors may shift slightly because we were always working here and there. We lost a paint company that was making some of the bases, so and they canceled some of our bases. This is before we got big enough that we were immune to cancellation. So yeah, some chemistry and color did switch up. Some colors will be the same, like tan skin, and the skin tones are generally exactly the same. So I'm using little touches of this color that I mixed, which is my my desert sand with my walnut mixed in. And I'm just grabbing little tiny bits of that and kind of mixing it in to create shadows on the surface so that we can see the bone color. Scrying Eye, thank you for the 21-month resub. That's awesome. And again, I'm going to use this shadow color because there's etched symbol up here. I'm going to use that color to come in and get that kind of mixed up. Doing a little bit of a blend of the walnut and the sand color to go around behind the skull. Using the straight up mix to get the eye sockets. So yeah, this is the problem with starting really light, is that then you almost always have to bring in heavier shadows manually. Even though desert sand looks like it's fairly dark in the bottle, it's really not coming through all that way once I have it over the white primer. So I've got that gray color to shade it now. I mean, you should use them. You just make sure that, some of them went over to Bones Crispy. So the most popular colors from HD got ported over to Bones. And so if you see a color like Meadow Green in Bones that you have in HD, it's made using the same formulation and it's matched to the old color. So some of those colors are going to be in the Bones line, but not all of them got rebirthed because not all of them sold. And that's why HD got canceled in the first place, is because it didn't sell as well as the Bones line. So instead, we just took the most popular colors and ported them over. So yeah, sure, use them. I mean, there's no reason not to use a canceled paint. You just have to keep in mind that it's canceled, so don't use it as the main color of your army or anything. I use canceled colors all the time, or I use canceled colors and I use like special edition like Reapercon colors that I know I can't get anymore. I mean, shake them up and see if they're still good. And if you like them, use them. And if you run out and it's not made anymore, chances are somebody can help you. Maybe I can help you even mix a replacement color or find a color that's close that is still in print. So now we're getting some shadows on that bone color. It's still very pale, but that's all right. The bones paints, yes. So essentially with bones, Ed wanted a paint line that was branded, that was bones branded. And because I liked the technology we were using in the HD line with the high density pigments, the high density pigments are also used in the HD line. The high density pigments are also used in bones. Bones also has new metallics technology in it. The flake is different in the metallics in the bones line in most of the colors. We went with a brighter metallic flake that is a different base than the usual flake that we started with. Just going to do a little bit of lining here again. I don't think we stopped, but if nobody takes advantage of it, we may stop someday with the special mix stuff. Like if you get enough people together. I think you have to buy, what, 50 bottles? 100? I can't remember. It depends. A lot of people prefer our original metallics, but many people wanted a brighter, shinier metallic, so it's all in what you're doing. If you're doing a lot of demi-metallics, like I do a lot of shaded metallics, some people really like our original metallics for that because they're not as shiny, and they want to be able to kind of control the finish. It's easier to shade those down. So it really is almost, you should buy, like, if you bought 9050, which is, I think, antique gold, and 9450 dragon gold, you should try both and then decide which one you like better. Because if you're like doing like minis for like you want to post photos online or you have them on your website, sometimes the original formula of MSP actually photos a little better because it's not as shiny out the gate. Oh, it's 10 bottles. Okay. That's easy. Yes, I can answer all your questions of everything except for the most recent paints. I've been living here in California for a couple of years now, so anything since that time I don't have direct knowledge of, although I can usually tell how Reaper made it just because I'm so familiar with the line. All right, I'm actually going to block in these gemstones in dark. We have gemstones here. So this is another accent color option here with these gems on her leather. Learning to mix can really give you options, though. I always recommend, like, at least learn how to mix highlights. It's so easy. It's usually adding white or yellow and white to your base paint and mixing your own highlight. And if you can get that down, then you get a little braver. But that really helps with skin tones. Like, I don't use really pale skin tones usually. I start with tan skin or something else and just add off white or white and yellow. Don't overthink it, Chris. All it has to be is close enough. Like, I don't remember what color I used for this cape, but I'm not going to sweat it. I bet I can make it look just fine. Yes, 9050 and 9450. They're very similar colors. They're both the medium gold, the kind of foundational medium gold. I think it's antique gold and dragon gold. And those, looking at those, squeezing them out, compare them, put them on a model next to each other, they will give you really a good idea for how the lines are different. Also, always when working with metallics, and not just ours, but always undercoat with a basic brown under gold and a basic dark gray under silver. You will thank me. It will keep your metallics from being streaky. They will go on a lot nicer. I'm using some walnut here, thinned down, guys, just to fill in some of the etching on her shoulder blade here. I mean, okay, so if you want to start mixing, the basic thing is, I use little watercolor cards. Hold on. Let me show you, Chris. So what I do, if I'm going to do a mix, is I keep a little watercolor card. And I've got a swatch there, and I've got exactly what I'm doing, and I've got my ratio. I keep this under the model on my shelf here while I'm working on the model. And like I'll do the opposite side, I'll have examples of what I've done. I have a magic card binder, which those sheets that those fill in, they fit in. So I'm able to keep them organized once I'm done with them. I can just put the miniature name on the card. Then I always have it. And really the key to mixing is just to keep it down to two colors at first. Just 2 colors. Then you maybe go to 3. Never go more than 3 colors. You will always, if you just use 2 colors, you will always be able to match it super easily. You just have to keep one of those note cards. A lot of people will take pictures on their phone with the mini next to it, but I find it actually pretty difficult because I've got so many photos to sort through already. So I use those little cards. I tend to like tactile, physical things also. I use those little cards instead. And that way I've always got it. I've got it right next to the model. And it's really easy that way. I forgot to do one on for this model because I started her the first day of Reapercon. And it was kind of just like a special, we were doing kind of a speed paint. And so I didn't make notes like I usually would. Now, you could use a wash to fill in these little details as well. That's fair. You'll just have to go back over the top to bring up the colors lighter in those little bits. So I was just outlining that little design there. I have very little paint on my brush, and it's thinned 2 to 1, so it comes off the brush in really thin strokes. And I've got that part now outlined as well. Make it a little darker. I've got the edge here. So we've got that painted in. Howdy, Corsair. So yeah, best tip ever is when you're mixing, work with 2 colors at once. 2 colors, no more, until you get more familiar. You will always be able to hit it, or you will always be able to hit it so close that nobody will notice that it's different. But yeah, the easiest thing in my mind to mix are highlights, because usually you are just adding white to a color. And maybe if it's like a yellow, an orangey color or a red color or a skin color, you might be also adding a tiny bit of yellow. Maybe if it's a blue, you add a tiny bit of yellow to bring it greenish. That's just because sunlight tends to look like a warm color to us. So it tends to like make sense if we have a little bit more golden of a highlight color. Here we go. So we've got all those etched in details there. And I need to remember to paint the back side of this. Kiki hid under the chair for the first half of it, Corsair, and was terrified of all the dogs. And then she started being good, like lying down and kind of licking at them when they came. And then finally, they did a little playtime, and then we went and did some training. By the time second playtime came around later, she was ready to actually go out and try to play with some of the dogs. So I think that when we go tomorrow, which is right after the stream. So I'll have to call the stream like right at 11. I'll try to be on time tomorrow accordingly. But tomorrow I expect she will be a devil. I warned the instructors. I'm like, yeah, I would expect her to be a demon the second time around. They're like, we believe you. So, yeah, Kiki did okay. By the end, she just wanted to play with everybody. But that's Kiki, like, and this is kind of a mark of good breeding, too, and good socialization on the part of Bridget, is that Kiki gets warmed up really fast to new, strange situations that might terrify another dog. So, like, she'll start out, like, not sure and stressed out, but if I give her time, then within 20 minutes, usually, she's, like, all over it. She just wants to be all over it. At this stage of the game, anyway. Yeah, she's a good dog. And it was the same way at the vet's office. At first, she was just like, no way, I don't want to be here. And then by the end of the vet's office, she was playing with all of the vet techs. So yeah, part of like good socialization, I think, is knowing your dog. Like figuring out how long does it take my dog to warm up? You know, what are their kind of signs that it's a little too much? If I give them time, will they recover, or do I need to wait until a different day? That kind of stuff. It's being a good dog owner is figuring out who is your dog. Because the same socialization opportunity isn't good for every dog. There we go. So we've gotten all of our leather coming pretty well in. Yeah. Better than having a vet that refused to deal with your cat unless they were tranked. Like, that was one of our cats that had not been, she was a rescue that hadn't been socialized as a kitten. Essentially, the owner had bought her and just shut her in his room in this house that was a rental house. And finally, like, and then he'd like just go off to work, and she like never got exposure to anybody else, and she never got any out of the box, so to speak. So finally, the roommates of this person were just like, you should not even own a cat, like, because he wasn't cleaning the litter box and all that, and so he just gave her up. So we ended up with her, but she had never been taken anywhere, and so she was very. They had to sedate her to see her at the vet. Alrighty, so now I have to make some decisions. I have to figure out what these bracers are, if I want to do them in like silver, for example. But while I do that, I'm going to paint this other raven head. But yeah, Kiki's going to have playgroup every Saturday and Tuesday, I think, because it lets me make it a little later in the day. Otherwise, all the sessions are at like 9 a.m. and it's just not going to work with the stream and stuff. So the Keekster will have a regular schedule for a few weeks here. Plus, we're headed toward the wedding as well now. Now I have to actually put my attention back off the puppy a little bit. So it's good that David is back to work this week so we can get our schedule, you know, our routine mapped out with the Keekster in the morning and afternoon and evening. Because I still have to work, so the Kiki cannot be the focus of all of the time and energy. Yes, always get liners. Blue liner and brown liner as a very minimum. If you're going to do steel NMM, gray liner is also extremely useful. And fill in the head, the eyes there. Oh, that's funny, Kraniko. I'm just going to use this to kind of outline the eye sockets. Block in a shadow. Too many greens, that's not a thing. Obviously you need to paint more like dryads and tree men. And lizard men and snake people. And druids and rangers. Can't possibly have too many greens. Alright, this is a different rune on this side. More S-shaped. And again, you could use a wash to outline all of this if you wanted to. You just have to go back over the top of the bone. But that washes over bone I'm actually kind of a fan of, because usually I want the shadows to go quite dark already, and then you're always going to have to bring them back up anyway. So actually washes over bone, that's fair. I have been known to use a wash over bone every once in a while. Oh, of course, that's sad. Yeah, socialization is a thing. That's why when you go to Reapercon sometimes, and John and Farabano have their like cat socialization, their cat rescue booth, they're handing the kittens out to get petted by everybody, because socialization is a key thing for cats and dogs. Makes them easier to handle. Gets them out of that little box. That's right, Quindy LaRue. Yeah, so sometimes past cons, John and Farah, if they've got a litter of kittens, because they tend to raise newborns, they're one of the local shelters trust them to raise newborn kittens whose mama has abandoned them, so they're used to doing the bottle feeding and everything like that. But if they've got a litter, they'll often get a booth and come to Reapercon. It's good socialization for the cats. And everybody loves it, because everybody gets to carry around kittens. Win-win. Alright, so just putting in that shading there, doing a little bit of wet blending to get it kind of blended in here and here. I'm kind of taking a look and seeing where else I might want to shade. Oh, I hear a squeaky kiki. The squeaky kiki needs to learn. Oh, it's 11. Actually, she did wait till 11. I can't complain anymore. I can't complain, except I have to go a little bit late because I started a little bit late today. So she needs to wait a little bit. You need to wait a little bit, little girl. She was good though. That was good. That was a good sleep. There'll be tiny howls probably in a moment. Yep, squeaky kiki. Use it to highlight other greens. Mix it into other greens to build highlights. It's really good that way, because it has all of the key components that you need to highlight a green well. It has green, it has yellow, and it has white. So moth green will give you a more vibrant highlight than mixing in something like dungeon slime, which also has all those colors but is higher in white, which will mean that it mutes out your it'll mute out your highlight a little bit more to have that white in there, more white. Moth is more brilliantly yellow-green, and so Dogfather makes up for being allergic to cats by having many, many doglets. I mean, let's face it, cats have a lot of fans. Didn't they surpass dogs as the most popular pet in America a few years back? So I think that cats have fair representation. I think those of us who are more dogly can, you know, be fair and not own cats. Right now, anyway. I have had my years of cat ownership, and I have loved many of them. But right now, every living thing I have is just another thing for me to take care of, and it can be. I have learned about myself that if I have too many, it will be a source of big stress in my life. So, I'm kind of happy right now with my one Kiki and a lot of plants to take care of. And my orchids and my fruit trees. I'm pretty happy. I feel like my life is manageable most of the time. Although getting Kiki integrated into my system is, it's taking a little while. We're still not quite there, but we're getting there. Yeah, it's all about, I mean, with pets, it is all about your lifestyle. You make no mistake. It matters what suits you. I mean, because otherwise it is a source of stress in your life. If you have an animal that is clashing with your lifestyle and doesn't fit in very well, then that's, that can be stressful. And that's what we don't want with our pets. We want our pets to be a source of joy and happiness and de-stress. They make us feel better about life. So definitely a good thing to consider when you're looking at getting a pet. Yeah, exactly. Enough people bring dogs to the con, though. There's usually a couple of dogs at the con, a couple of service type animals. If Keekster is well behaved, maybe I'll bring her next year. Can't decide if I want to. It'll depend on if I can find dog sitters for her in Texas with my friends for part of the day, just so I can concentrate on the con. There we go. So I've got my shadows like working more and more shadow in. I want some drama on these the details here. I want to be able to bring out the details. I got a little bit too dark on this room of the eye though. There we go. A little bit better. So we've got some shading, and it's I can still put a white highlight on this and bring it out more. I feel like my bone color, I could have gone a little more brown with it at the initial. I have been known to base with like a shield brown and then put like a walnut or a brown liner wash over it and then work it up if I want real dark shadows on my bone. It depends on how rotting and kind of like decomposing you want your bone to feel. Oh, no Corsair. Yeah. Sometimes people don't realize. That's why I didn't bring Kiki. Because it's hugely stressful. Think about how, I mean, it's stressful enough for some of us humans, right? To walk into a room full of people like that. For a dog that's not used to it, it's not gonna work so well. Sometimes people need to stop and think a little bit more. It's one thing if that dog is like a service dog who's used to crowded areas that are full of people. It's another if it's just like, hey, I brought my dog to the con. So we really don't want to ruin it for everybody. Tenderfoot dogs at the con. Good. Oh no. Good. Yeah, Bridget's great. I mean, she's a great person. She will ask you a lot of questions to determine if it's the right breed for you, Kodiak. Just remember, these are not, a lot of people, like, a lot of breeders from some organizations will try to sell you that these are golden retrievers in, you know, in shepherd form, but they're not. They're definitely shepherds. They take a lot of time and energy. I don't even tell you how many hours I put into training and socializing and generally just trying to make Kiki a productive canine member of society every day. Like, I've had to sideline my writing entirely in order to raise her right. And they need a lot of structure and routine. So ask yourself how chaotic your household is. There's the barks. Are you playing in there? She's probably playing with her chew toy. I gave her a pig's ear and I gave her a whimsy chew toy, and when she gets like lonely, she like will totally play with her toys like they're another puppy. But yeah, Bridget is great, and she always will have like her puppies. I know she's got another breeding happening with one of her girls that's owned by someone in Texas. So she's helping Lauren have her first litter, and those puppies, I believe, will. I don't know if they're just sold by Bridget or if they're sold by Bridget plus Lauren, but we'll see. Anyway, Bridget's a great breeder. Best I can say is be real honest in your answers, and you'll know for sure whether it's the right breed for you. Other thing to remember about Shilohs is that even as puppies, they're very strong dogs. So, like, obedience training is an absolute must. Alrighty, so we've got the bone in place there, and I want to get at least the base coat on her leggings before I call this. I think I have just enough time, but I think I am going to go slightly darker. I'm going to go with this gray. I'm going to do a mixture. She's so funny. She's sitting there barking in the background. She's playing with her pig ear or whatever. She has a soft toy in there too. So I'm going to go I'm mixing these two together to make this. And I think I may start with that. And I'm just going to start with my shadow. Heck with it. The barking is not actually like trying to get my attention. The barking is actually playing with her stuff. Oh, I might have left her drink. Her bucket might be on the outside of the crate. She might be trying to play with that. Well, I'll have to call it a good. Because when her bucket is stuck on the outside of her crate, she thinks she needs to play with it and try to slosh the water everywhere. Alright, so this is actually a pretty good color to be bringing in here. I like those leggings better already. We'll bring them up. Kiki! Alright, hold on. I may need to go rescue the water before it gets spilled everywhere. Or I may just need to call my stream a little bit early. Or I guess we're already... I wanted to do an extra 10 minutes and we've done that, so... Oh, Kiki. She's just a little devil. She looks like an angel, but she's definitely a little fuzzy devil right now. Alright, we at least base coated the legs so they look a little bit better. We're going to back out. Yeah, that looks 20 times better than having those dark legs. Cats are looking for you. for Kiki. Yeah. Alright, so we used this dark color, which is a mixture of our desert sand and our walnut, to base coat the legs. You can see it looks a lot lighter on the figure, so you never know. Like, what the colors on the figure are always going to like change the color as it looks on the palette. So we're getting some good progress on here. I'm kind of thinking of using that color for the bracers too, so I may do that. Oh, now she's got a squeaky toy. Yeah, she's definitely playing. So funny. Alright, so I'm going to question myself whether I might want to do silver on all the metals here. I might. I'm not sure, unless I can do a really washed out gold there on the sword. But we'll take a look at it next time, and I'll think about her lantern as well. Tomorrow, we will be working on another new model from the Elemental Scions. We're going to be working on the Jinn, the Air Scion. He's pretty awesome. I think we'll do dark skin on him. So this could be fun. So yeah, he's got some cool, neat stuff. He's got some armor and some really cool shoulder pads and belt things and big old potion and his cool little lamp. And this is going to be fun. And got it just in time. 38 months. Thank you, Trash. Thank you. No Rhonda. Okay. Yeah. So, okay, thanks, everybody. I'm going to go rescue the water bucket from my puppy. And thank you all for tuning in. We will return tomorrow with the Jinn. And yeah. I'll call it there. Thanks so much for running the stream, Quindy, as always, and I'll see you all tomorrow.